Now, forgive me for my hesitation, but this is the first time I've tried to record anything at my new house. And so I'm having to figure out how far away to be from this bad boy. I've been messing with lighting a little bit because y'all know I am a full-blown amateur and I'm not trying to be anything more than an amateur. That being said, I would like to make sure that this is listenable and watchable. Welcome to Terror and Touchdowns. I'm your host, David Ritchie, and it's been a bit. I feel like I do this about every 6 weeks. I tell you it's been a bit, and then I tell you why it's been a bit. If you've ever watched this, which most of you have not, you know it's been a bit because I'm not even in the same house. And so, yes, I have changed jobs, changed locations, changed houses, changed towns, changed a lot. And so, yeah, it's got to be getting used to everything that's new. And I finally today was like, you know what? I'm going to sit down. I don't love my desk. And have y'all ever avoided your desk because you don't love your desk? The desk that I wanted to put here is in my son's room, and it was just way too big in my brain. This room was a little bigger. That pool table behind me was going to fit a little less snug on this end. It fits great. It's a great place to play pool. But it didn't leave enough room for me to put my full-blown desk here. So this desk was supposed to be in Hayden's room, and it is much smaller. So I've got to figure it out, and I got to get comfortable with it. And the only way to get comfortable with it is to come here and sit down and record an episode. And I am behind, guys. What an incredible late spring, early summer for those of us that are horror junkies. And I am behind, right? So, you know, I have yet to see them all. I will tell you, I will kind of backtrack to when I moved here. I moved into this house in March and immediately started my new job before I moved in here. And I travel a lot for some of the other stuff I do. And it's just been a blur. And, you know, anytime you move into a new house, there's some things to fix. So I've spent a lot of my time and resources in the yard, backyard, front yard, with some of the plumbing, with some of the HVAC. And so when I moved, I live, like, this is a fantastic location. So I live 0.5 miles from what used to be the Alamo Draft House in Lubbock, but is now the Flicks Brew House. I've actually walked it. It was a 23-minute walk from my front door to the doors of the theater. I walked it probably mid-April when it was hot, but not as hot as it is now, where it's 128,000 degrees outside. So I'm not going to walk it for a while. So I say that to say it's a great location for me to get caught up on movies. It's not the only theater I've been going to. They're still doing some work on the Flicks Brew House. The chairs are not the most comfortable in the world. So when I went to see the Odyssey, obviously I'm not going to go see it there because I want to kick back and recline because I am one of those spoiled moviegoers that enjoys the reclining experience. But that being said, as I stay in this house longer, I do plan to hit that Flicks Brew House quite often. So anyway, I moved, and the one that came out right when I was in the process of moving was Undertone. I have since seen Undertone streaming in that room over there. This podcast is not about Undertone, but that was kind of the beginning of this incredible time period that horror had in the theater. Soon after, and I don't remember the exact order, but Passenger came out. Haven't caught Passenger yet. I had a Sunday that I was going to walk down to the theater to see it, and it was sold out. And so that was the lone time I've had a chance to watch it. I wasn't overly pumped about Passenger. I thought the trailer looked good, but it wasn't one that, like, I redid my schedule in the days following to make sure that I caught. I will catch it on streaming at some point. Now, I don't remember if it was before or after Passenger, but Obsession came out. I did see Obsession on opening weekend. I saw it across town at one of the other theaters. I fell in love with it immediately. Again, this podcast is not about obsession. I hope to kind of backtrack and hit obsession. I've seen it twice now, saw it twice in the theater, saw that it is now streaming, I believe, on Peacock, so I will catch it again. I think that I loved the theatrical experience, so I definitely think I will enjoy it at home, but I don't think I'm going to have. I think Obsession is going to be one of those movies that any subsequent viewing never can overtake the experience of the first time theater, fairly crowded, not knowing what you were walking into. Like that was an amazing experience. I went back to see it a couple days later because I wanted to then kind of, now that I knew the the interplay between Wish Nikki and Real Nikki, I kind of wanted to go back and watch it. And spoiler alert, I thought Bear was the bad guy, and the first time I saw it, he only gets worse every single time I watch it. So yeah, big fan of Obsession. So when you watch that episode, you're already gonna know where I'm gonna rate it because I thought it was one of the most enjoyable theatrical experiences. But when I say enjoyable, I just mean that it provoked feelings out of me that I have not felt in a movie in a long time. Like I literally was in a state of anxiety the entire time I watched it. But I just loved it. I thought everybody in it did fantastic. I thought Curry Barker wrote, direct, edited, all that. I just thought it was a fantastic movie going experience, which leads me to the next one, which was Backrooms. Now I will probably go back and give some of these their individual episode. But moving in, like Obsession and Backrooms, we knew those were going to be two heavy hitters coming back to back. Before even there was a Holcomb, which I need to add to the list, and Undertone, and all these other ones. Like I was already looking forward to those back to backs. I don't know much about Backrooms. My oldest son Hayden knows a lot about Backrooms. My youngest son Logan knew about Backrooms, so my knowledge of it came from them. They were at the house one weekend and we kind of watched a little bit of some of the YouTube. I still have not explored it in great depths, but I just thought it looked good. And I'm an A24 sucker, right? A24 comes on the trailer and I'm gonna go. So I went in to the Obsession Backrooms doubleheader. I'm not gonna lie, figuring Backrooms was gonna be the A teamer, and Obsession looked good in the trailers, but I thought it might be the B team of that deal. Well, again, spoiler alert, I've also seen Backrooms twice. I really enjoyed Backrooms. I enjoyed Backrooms more the second time than the first time, but Obsession beat it for me. So, and then that leads me to this episode, and I'm probably forgetting some of the other ones that were thrown in there. Like I said, I almost forgot Holcomb. Saw Holcomb at the theater. Really enjoyed Holcomb. Need to rewatch Holcomb before I really speak much on it. Because it was definitely a slow burn. So I need to go back and revisit before I speak on it again. But that brings me to today. So today, for this practice episode, I'm going to just do a film that I thought was worth practice. It was not worth a game. It was better than a workout, right? It was it was a scrimmage. It was a decent time at the movies, and that was Evil Dead Burn. Now, saw it opening weekend. Saw it on can't remember, either Thursday, Friday, or Saturday or Sunday in that opening stretch. I always balance it between what all I have going on. I was excited about it. Now, but I also kind of knew what I was going to get. So let's talk about my history with the Evil Dead series. I saw Evil Dead 2 first. It's the first Evil Dead movie I ever saw. Um, growing up in Sweetwater, Texas, we never purchased all the HBOs, Cinemaxes, Showtimes. But if you'll remember back in the day of cable, once a year, twice a year, whatever, they would put like a week where you got them for free. And I was a movie junkie at a young age, so I was always through the old TV guide, the book, because this is even before we could get on and Google things. I always knew when those little trial periods were coming, and when they came, I would just go buy bukus of blank cassettes, and I would just record movies. I was robbed twice back in the 90s, and whoever robbed me has one of the best movie collections, both from bought VHS, bought DVD, but also just a plethora of videotapes. And each videotape, I usually could get, drill about 3 movies on a videotape, right? For those of us that lived in that day and age, it was very cumbersome and sometimes very troublesome, but I also have great memories of the video stores, the recording, getting RCA cables and hooking 2 VHSs up and doing what the FBI warning told me not to do at the beginning of every video. But these were just on, the HBOs, the Cinemaxes, the Showtimes. And so that is how I came across Evil Dead 2. I was a Fangoria magazine guy, but I didn't subscribe to it. I just bought it when I could. Um, I knew of the original Evil Dead, but I had never seen it. It came out in a time when I was not freely able to take myself to the movie theater. I was dependent on a mother and father that had no interest in going to see scary movies. So I had not seen Evil Dead before I saw Evil Dead 2. I fell in love with Evil Dead 2. There was a couple of my VHSs that just got absolutely run through because it was just watching it. And I am a person that enjoys watching scary movies before I go to sleep at night. I am still that person. And, there was always one back in the day, one tape. Again, I would have 3 movies on a tape. So there was always one tape that I would always put in and watch it as I fell asleep. And Evil Dead was one of the movies that rotated through that. I just thought it was hilarious. I fell in love with Bruce Campbell. I fell in love with the character of Ash. I fell in love with just everything about it, the way it made you feel, the lighting, the sets, the special effects. As cheesy as it is, I took my sons to see it. It was showing at our mall theater. They show the old ones, and I took them to see it not too long ago, and they just thought they liked it, but they were not blown away by it because kids today are exposed to a lot more than what we were exposed to, so it takes a little bit more to impress them. But going back to my youth, I was just impressed, amazed, fell in love with it, and so I just watched it on repeat forever. And so I go to college and I have a roommate who's an architect major, and we're hardly ever there at the same time. And we don't really ever get to know each other too well, but we do figure out that we both are Evil Dead junkies and Army of Darkness releases. And so, finally had something in common with my college roommate. We go to the old Winchester Theater. Sorry, I was reading a text. We go to the old Winchester Theater in Lubbock, Texas to watch Army of Darkness. And again, just thought it was an amazing experience. So at some point in time, I then backtrack and see the original Evil Dead. And I figure out real quick that, Evil Dead 2 is really kind of a sequel of Evil Dead, and a sequel slash reboot slash requel, whatever. Some story of it is new, some of it's old, and they just kind of had a bigger budget to kind of redo the original ideas the way that I kind of figured it. So I've seen Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness the most. I have watched Evil Dead, the original, many times to this point. And those are the 3. And I think that there are 2 divisions of Evil Dead fans, maybe even 3. There's those of us that came in with Evil Dead. To me, is Ash. It's goofy, it's comedy, it's gore, but it's not taken seriously. It's just fun. It's a fun experience, right? And then 2013, the Evil Dead remake comes out, and I've not seen it, but maybe 3 or 4 times. Saw it in the theater and remember thinking it was better than what I thought it was going to be, because you could tell by the trailer it was a completely different vibe, right? And so I remember liking it, but I didn't revisit it for a really long time. And, I've since, and fairly recently, because it's on one of the things that I stream all the time, Pluto, Tubi, one of those, and it's on there. So I've recently seen it again twice. And, I've got a lot of respect for that movie. I enjoy that movie. I feel like it is a bit linked to the original trilogy, but obviously it is much more serious, much more intense, much more violent, and probably because it's made in 2013 and not the 80s and 90s, and you can just go a lot further now than you used to be able to go. So then nothing happens for a long time, right? And then Evil Dead Rise comes out, and I forgot until yesterday that I guess that was not a theatrical release. I guess that came out at the heels of COVID, where everything was going straight to streaming. I saw it immediately. For some reason, I just had zero memory that it never went to the theater. And I'll be honest, I didn't love Evil Dead Rise. I thought it was closer to 2013 Evil Dead. I didn't feel like it had much relationship to the originals, right? And I'm fine with that. Like I am not one that says, man, for me to like it, it's got to be like this. I'm cool with it being whatever it wants to be. Um, but it just I've only seen it one and spotty. I always have movies on when I'm cleaning, when I'm working, and so it's been on a couple times. But I'm not gonna lie to you, it was not one that I ever had this major urge to revisit. And so if you were to ask me, if you were to quiz me about the Evil Dead movies, I'm going to fail the test on Evil Dead Rise, whereas I think I could score average on the 13, and then I think I would make rave A's and B's on the original three. Which brings us to Evil Dead Burn. So I was excited about it, right? I'm excited about any scary movie. Like I'm already, as long as I get all my work done, I'm gonna go see the new Pinocchio, whatever movie. Like I enjoy watching scary movies above all other movies. And I love all movies. Like there's no movies I won't go see, but I love going to watch scary movies at the theater. You just put and I'll be honest with you, they could probably make an Evil Dead every year, 2 years, 3 years, and I not enjoy them, kind of like I didn't love Evil Dead Rise. But as long as it's scary, as long as it's a scary movie, and honestly, as long as the words Evil Dead are tagged to the title, I'm still gonna give them my money because they've they put enough in my emotional bucket in my childhood years that I'm gonna keep paying back, right? And so I know there's Evil Dead Wrath on the way. I do hope, because I've heard it's based in the 70s, I kind of hope they go a bit of a different route than what I feel like Rise and Burn went, because I feel like Rise and Burn are very, very similar. I liked Burn, I think, better than Rise. A lot of why I liked Burn was because of the beginning. I thought the opening was amazing, and I thought, man, if this movie's going on this type of pace, type of tone, type of writing, type of everything, then I'm going to enjoy it way more than I did Evil Dead Rise. Uh, you know, it fell off for me as it went on. So, going into that, I've got the plot summary up here on my computer for those of you that have not seen it, and for those of you that have no idea what Evil Dead Burn is about. And we're going the short version here, but Evil Dead Burn follows a grieving widow seeking comfort with her late husband's family. You've got Alice, you've got Susan. Uh, Alice has an abusive husband named Will. And it took me a while, first time I saw it, to figure out the relationship of everybody, right? It took me a bit to figure out the relationship between Will and Joseph. Who was his brothers, who was not brothers, who were friends, all that stuff. There's Tia, uh, and then of course you have Will, you have Polly, you have Edgar. Well, I'm not going to get into those details with names. I'm going to talk to you about how I remember the people because, like I said, I'm doing this podcast more or less so I can make sure that all my stuff still works. Opening's amazing. Opening takes you back to Evil Dead Rise, right? We're back at the lake, which, going back to Evil Dead Rise, hands down, my favorite part of that movie was the cold open and the title card. Like, again, I should start learning with these new Evil Deads. They're gonna set the bar really high for me, and then it's just gonna go away. I loved the opening of Evil Dead Rise. So going back to Evil Dead Burn, I was glad to see us back at the lake, right? I think the opening scene, the fishing wire, the deadite, the head, I just thought all of it worked great for me. It worked great for me and my brain. So, and I do see how it links, because going down back now to Evil Dead Burn, we started a club. There's an abusive relationship between Alice and Will. You can tell uh, there's a lot going on there. And I think that that's an ongoing theme throughout this movie that they kind of touch on, but don't go too heavily on, is the abusiveness of a family and how it can be hereditary and it can be passed down and it can almost be expected and accepted, right? I think that kind of flows through the whole movie. So they get in a fight at the club, right? And then Will heads out, pissed off, in a car, driving way too fast. And then he hits, boom, homegirl from the lake who had just killed the other two. And so you got Deadite, you got car crash, and obviously Will meets his demise. So I will tell you, up until that point, I was on board, right? Up until that point, I do a lot of informally scale of 1 to 10. It's a solid 7. Like, I'm thoroughly enjoying my experience. And I will tell you, from that point on, I just get bored. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, because I have read a lot of people love this movie. From that point, it just becomes monotony and it becomes rehash. And I just didn't necessarily love it. I have not seen the director's other stuff. I know he's a French director. I know he made a movie called Infested that's supposed to be really good. At some point in time, I'll watch it. I thought the color for this one, Evil Dead Rise, is very similar. It's just very bland, right? And, so the rest of the movie after that opening scene, for the most part, takes place at this house. There's a good scene at a funeral home, which I'm going to tell you, big fan of that scene. But then once they get to the house, I just feel like it completely loses steam. And, I will use the father as an example of my feelings about this movie. So you can tell from the very first time that Will's dad is on screen with Alice. It's right after his son's died. Obviously, no dad's going to be in a good mood after that. But it's right after that. But you can tell he's just not a good dude. He, at first I thought, well, maybe he's just mourning, but there was a whole lot more to it than just mourning. And you start to get real fast the reason that his son is in an abusive relationship is because he's probably been living that abusive relationship life for most of his time on this earth. And the mom I thought was okay. There's a grandmother in there which tries to be the comic relief that I thought was kind of hit and miss. There was one scene that I really kind of cracked me up a little bit. But with the dad, I think that is what I miss about this Evil Dead, what really doesn't click in my brain. Like, I need there to be a bit of a difference between a deadite and a human. And point blank, there were times I almost thought Dad was going back and forth, right? Especially before he goes full blown deadite. Like, when he's sitting at the dinner table, for those that have seen it, like, is he already a deadite? Is he in transition? Is it now a really slow transition? Or is he just the mean dad from back in the day, right? And I just, that's the difference. It's just a mean movie with a lot of mean people. And I'm cool with that. That's just not my Evil Dead. And so, like, if you were to scrap the Evil Dead Burn name and just give this a random name and it was a one-off story, it would make more sense to me. But if you're going to be a deadite, I need to kind of at least be able to relate you to all the other deadites that came before you. And I just couldn't with this dad. And then, he kills the dog. For those of you that are dog lovers, of course, the dog comes back as a deadite dog, right? So, the dog didn't really die, but you could see that coming a mile away. His whole demeanor at the table, like, again, it was just like, I just was sitting in the theater like, okay, so what are you? Are you just a really crappy person? Or are you turning into a deadite? Obviously, he was turning into a deadite, which we probably knew because of the funeral home sequence. But that to me is this new world of Evil Dead. It's cold, it's bland, and it's mean. And again, I don't necessarily dislike that. It's just when you tag the words Evil Dead onto it, I kind of expect you to be colorful, gory, and comedically mean, which If you're just watching this and you've never seen any of it, that's not going to make a lot of sense to you. Um, and then from that point on, it's just, I think in the directors and in the plan was it's just everything goes off the rails from that point of view, right? And, I there's a lot of scenes in this that to me kind of got ruined in the preview. There's a dishwasher scene that I think would have been a lot cooler that I not already know it's coming. I already knew that the other girl, I guess that's Tia. Like I really liked Tia, but like as soon as I saw her, I'm like, well, I know you don't make it because I've seen you on the trailer drinking candle wax, right? And so I think that's a problem with a lot of new movies is they give us too much. So I would much rather a lot of that. I wish I had not known all of that going into it. Could never really figure out the mom. I think that goes back to what kind of underlying theme message were they trying to send me? Because was the mom, had she been in abusive relationships so long that all she knew was she had to submit to the abusive relationship? Because you can tell the dad's kind of got a grip on her, much like his son was trying to get a grip on, his wife. But when dad goes full deadite, there's this kissing scene, which just, again, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read a lot of reviews, and for some people, man, all of that just worked. But for me, I was like, yeah, no, that I can't imagine that ever taking place, right? You would say, well, it's a movie. You don't have to think like that. But that's my point. In the old Evil Deads, that would be comedy, and that would be like, oh, that's crazy. But in the new ones, I feel like they're trying to be much more grounded, much more mean, much more real. So it makes me look at the screen and be like, well, would I really do that? So for me, the whole, in a nutshell, Evil Dead Burn is very forgettable. It is, will I rewatch it? Maybe. If my sons get into horror at some point in time, we're going to go through the whole Evil Dead franchise, not just two. They've seen two in Army of Darkness. They've never gone back to the OG. They've never seen the 2013. They've never seen these. But the only reason I would show them these Evil Dead Rise, Evil Dead Burn, is because that way they can have been a part of the whole franchise. I just don't love them. Now, whether there's some good takes, good things from it, yeah, there's a scene where Deadite Dad is standing outside and like I'm not sure what they were trying to accomplish, but I found myself in the theater, so he shoots himself like either 1, 2, 3 times or 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and I really was one of the people not at all appalled by it, but just sitting there like after he did it the second time, like, dude, is he going to just go around his whole face and shoot himself in the whole face? And like, what are you trying to accomplish by this? Are you trying to put fear into the people that are still alive in the house? Are you just making sure nobody leaves the house? Are you like, again, like that dad was a piece of crap when he was alive. That dad was a piece of crap when he was dead. To me, there was no difference between deadite dad and live dad. Not the same for Tia. I think that was her name, if I'm misremembering. Like, she was a really nice person, and I really liked her, and I would have been cool with her being the hero, but she wasn't, and you knew she wasn't because you'd seen the trailer. And her boyfriend, Joseph, I believe it was his name, who is the brother of Will, right? They are kind of the protagonists from the very beginning. You actually like them, but the more you got to know him, like, he was the biggest wimp ever created. And he never had the arc to become a hero. From the very beginning, he was not able to defend himself. He was not able to defend his girl. And he was not able to stand up to anybody. And that really never changed. Like, I kept waiting for him to do something heroic when he has a chance to defend or save his girlfriend, he freaking runs, right? So by the end of it, I just didn't care for anybody. The dog, like I like dogs, so I was hoping the dog would live. But by the end of it, I just didn't care for anybody. And that's tough on a movie. Even a mean movie usually can make me care about somebody, even if I care about the killers making it mean. And in this one, I just didn't. I didn't care about the dad, didn't care about the mom. I mentioned the grandmother earlier. There's a denture scene, which for some people did a lot of good. It didn't do anything for me. There's a scene though that I did enjoy because she gets in one of those old Gremlins chairs that's attached to the staircase, and it moves just so slow. And just at this scene, I don't remember what all was going on at the time, but that got a giggle out of me. But as a whole, just didn't love it. So with our tearing touchdowns, the way that, for those of you that have never watched it, and I've been thinking about this a lot, I'm going to try to, figure out some graphics. You've got a tie ball game, which means you feel blah about it. You've got a safety and a field goal, 2 points, 3 points, which means you liked it, but it was kind of close. You've got a touchdown, which was a solid victory. And then you've got an absolute killing, which means it was a really good movie. And then on the other end of the zero tie, you lose by a touchdown or a field goal, which again is right in that same range. It's a close call, but something makes us lean one way or another. Or you lose by a touchdown, which means there's still some merit in it, but I just didn't love it. Or you lose by a lot. And if I could take just the beginning fishing scene, it's probably a 2-point or a 3-point victory. But what's crazy is the rest of the movie swings it all the way to an easy defeat. Like we never had a chance. We received the kickoff. We went down and scored a touchdown. All of our fans got pumped up because they thought, oh, we're actually going to be competitive in this game. And then you look up at halftime and you're down 42-7. And then you get beat 68-7. That's what this felt like to me. Like I thought we had a chance to enjoy it, but by the time it was done, I was glad the movie was over. So this is our practice round. If this episode's even decent at all, I'm going to throw it out there to just kind of remind myself how to publish all of this on YouTube. But Evil Dead Burn. Now, before I go, let's go to the 3 camps. So if you are, which a lot of people are, like if you came into the Evil Dead franchise with 2013, my guess is you relate to, like, and appreciate Burn and Rise more than you did for those of us that came in with Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and the OG, right? I also think there are some that their first exposure to it was post-COVID Evil Dead Rise. Well, if you liked Rise, I think you're going to like this one. They're very similar. If you liked 13, I think you'll like these. I don't think you'll like it as much as 2013. And then again, if you put me in that case, and I do not mean it disrespectful to anybody that liked the movie, it just didn't work for me. But I don't expect Ash and Bruce Campbell to ever come back. But going to Evil Dead Wrath, when I heard it's kind of a retro movie based in the 70s, my brain, again, they're going to get my money, but my brain went back to maybe the feel of it will go back to what an Evil Dead film is supposed to feel like to me. Because my Evil Dead doesn't feel like Burn, and it doesn't feel like Rise. And so no knock on those of you who that's your world. No knock on the people that live in 2013 and kind of go either way. And no kissing butt to those people that are just like me, that like the OGs. That's just where I felt. So if you liked Rise, go see it. If you like 2013, go see it. If you're an Evil Dead junkie, go see it. You might like it more than me. If you're just a random moviegoer that kind of like scary movies, I don't feel like this has a lot to offer you. There are, going back to the start of this podcast, there are way better offerings that have come out in late April and May, and maybe June, I don't remember when they all came out, than what Evil Dead Burn can offer you. So, like I said, at some point, I hope I'm able to have time to go back and do episodes on all of the ones that I was able to catch as I settled into this place. But hopefully this all works. I'll check it here in a bit, and we can get back to doing this on a regular basis. Thank you for watching Terror and Touchdowns. I apologize for what is a consistent giant space between episodes. I do hope to get to where I do it regularly. Have a fantastic week. And again, would love to know what you thought about Evil Dead Burn. I hope you loved it, because again, for me, it ain't about being right. It's just about enjoying life. Have fun. Thank you again for watching Terror and Touchdowns, and we will see you the next time I do an episode.